So the transfer window has come to an end. I was waiting for the end of the transfer window to start making these rating prediction videos, but we're going to be doing some predictions for FIFA 22 player ratings. Bear in mind, these are just predictions and they take into a lot of factors into account. So the main couple of factors that I think people don't often talk about is FIFA precedent, and that is, you know, in previous FIFAs, EA have made certain decisions based on certain factors that aren't necessarily, is this player good, is this player bad, has he had a good season, has he had a bad season. You know, they take things into account like age, like consistency, like has he played, has he had an injury, has he moved from a small club to a big club or a big club to a small club, you know, were they a free agent, all this, like so many different factors go into ratings. So I just wanted to say that before we get into it. But we're doing Manchester United ratings today, my favourite club, my boyhood club, the club that I support. I don't know why I said boyhood club like I've ever played for them. That just didn't sound right at all, did it? Let me know down below what club you would like to see the ratings for, and if you have any agreements or disagreements with ratings in the comments down below as well. I'd love to hear your opinions. Let's get into it. Starting with the goalkeepers, I've only included players that I think will play a lot of games and be featured quite a lot. So, you know, Heaton, Lee Grant, not included. A bunch of the youngsters that I don't think will play any game time at all, not included. So yeah, I've just included players that actually will get some game time. So De Gea, Henderson and Dalot. De Gea I've gone with a -1. It's not that I think he had a necessarily bad season last season, but I just think De Gea has been on the decline for the last year and a half. The issue is that Henderson has been taking his place in certain games, and when that starts to happen, typically you'll see the decline of a certain goalkeeper in terms of rating. Now, I actually think De Gea has been performing to an exceptional level over the last, I would say, 6 months. You know, against Roma, possibly one of the best goalkeeping displays I've seen in the last half decade. You know, against Wolves, against Southampton, 2 game winning and game saving saves he made for the club. Not to mention a few of the games that he played really well. So I actually think a -1 is actually harsh for him. But the reason why I've done it is because I just think that's how EA will look at it. EA will give him a -1. Not that I think he deserves it, but I you know, when I'm doing predictions, I'm actually going off what I think EA will give him, not what I think he deserves. So I would say De Gea should stay as an 86, but I can see EA giving him an 85 rated card. Henderson, I've kept as an 80. You know, he featured a little bit last year, and sometimes in those games he showed a little bit of class here and there, and I thought that he was a decent goalkeeper in some regards. Some of his traits that he does better are some of the things I wish De Gea did better. So, for example, he commands his box a little bit more that I wish De Gea did. I've left him as an 80. I think 80 is pretty fair for Henderson. And then Dalot, I've given a little +2. He had a good loan spell at AC Milan. They really liked him over there. He had a good loan spell in the Serie A. And I think that he will get a little +2. Stays non-rare. Nice little cheap right back option for FIFA 22. I think that's definitely a pretty fair rating for him. On to the next line of defense. We have got Wan-Bissaka, Maguire and Varane. All three I've given upgrades to. Now, Wan-Bissaka I've given a +1 because I actually think he had his best season in a United shirt last season. Just best season in general, like, that he's had so far in his career. A lot of people don't rate Wan-Bissaka because attacking he's not as good as Trent, or he's not as good as Reece James, or he's just not great in general. I actually rate Wan-Bissaka highly. I think he's a very good right back. I would rather have Wan-Bissaka 1-on-1 on any defender than I would any other right back in the world. I think as a 1-on-1 defensive right back, he is absolutely phenomenal. I think he could definitely improve on his dribbling. His passing could definitely do with work. But as a defensive right back, I think he's very good. And I think he's been playing and improving a lot. I think he's one of those players that has been going without praise for a long time, but deserves it. He's been playing really well. Maguire given a +2 for, you know, ever since that red card versus Denmark, I think it was around November, December last year. When he came back from that, he has been nothing short of excellent in the Man United shirt, in my opinion. I think you know, he had a few bad games against Spurs. We don't talk about that. You know, he had a few bad games here and there, but in the Euros, he was absolutely top class. For Man United for most of the season, he was absolutely top class. And I think a +2 is more than fair. It's more than justified. I don't see too many defenders in the Premier League that had a better season than Maguire. And you've got to remember, this Man United team, you know, we came runners-up in the Europa League. We came runners-up in the Premier League. And we also had a lot of our players runners-up in the Euros. That takes into account a little bit, you know. Like, I know second place is not exactly the best thing to shout home about. It's first loser. But you know, it's an improvement on the team in general, and a lot of these players have improved now. I would say that Maguire is one of those players that's definitely improved. And Raphael Varane, whilst I don't think he had a particularly amazing season for Real Madrid last year, the reason why I give him a +1 is because typically when players move to the Premier League, especially to teams like Man United, Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, they often get upgrades regardless, and especially a player of Raphael Varane's magnitude and of his sort of demand in game. EA will love the chance to give an upgrade. They love it. he'll literally sell packs during Wants to Watch because they could literally put out a Wants to Watch team with Ronaldo, Messi. Then the next week they could give Varane, Lukaku and as the two main players and sell even more packs that way, right? So I can see it happening. Next up, we've got Lindelof, Bailly and Telles. Lindelof has stayed the same. Honestly, could get a +1. The issue is, I think it's something that's often misunderstood. Lindelof is not a bad centre-back. Maguire's not a bad centre-back. But together, they are a bad centre-back partnership. They do not work together. It's like having two flavours. Of course, me making it about food, imagine. But it's like having two flavours that just don't go well together at all. That's Lindelof and Maguire. I think Lindelof had a decent Euros in that Swedish 5-back system. He played pretty well there. He's had a few really good games in the Man United shirt this season. I don't think he warrants a downgrade. I don't think he's done anything to warrant a downgrade. He's had some decent performances. You know, his passing has definitely improved this year as well. The issue is injuries. Like, a lot of people love Bailly, myself included, but injuries, when players have injuries and they don't play, they often get big downgrades, and I can see EA give them a big downgrade, especially in that pay sector, because typically when players get injuries, they get large downgrades. So I can see this happening for Bailly. And Telles, again, just hasn't had a lot of game time. I like Telles a lot, but he's not had a lot of game time. When he has played, he's looked pretty decent, but given the fact that he's not getting a ton of game time, he just probably won't stay 84. I can see EA keeping him aboard. I can also see him. I can also see EA lowering him. He's still a very good left back. Could be an 83, could be an 82. I would say 83 is probably fair, but 82 is also fair as well. This one might be controversial to a few people. I actually made these ratings a couple of days ago before the Southampton game. Sorry, yeah, before the Southampton game and before the Wolves game, I'm pretty sure. Luke Shaw, I think, was nothing short of incredible last year. I have him down as my best left back in the world last year. A lot of people say, oh, you know, Jordi Alba was better, this guy's better. I personally think Luke Shaw, with his form last year, was just unbelievable in the Euros and in the league and in the European Championships and whatnot. I think he was very good. A lot of people disagree, but I think he was the best left back in the world. I don't think anyone disagrees how good he really was last year, though. He's fantastic. I think an 84 is fair. You know, I look at a player like Digne, and Digne's got an 84 rated card, and I think Luke Shaw outperformed Digne and has had good seasons already. It's not like it was his first ever good season for United. He's had good seasons in previous years as well. Now, Fred, a lot of people will be calling for Fred to be a silver card after the last two games, but you need to take into account, whilst, yes, Fred's passing is... well, it's something. Fred has not been a necessarily bad player for Manchester United. As a tenacious, energetic midfielder, he is a very, very good midfielder in the Premier League. He's just not a defensive midfielder. And what I think happens is a lot of the time he just lacks confidence in the game. His confidence goes, and that's when his passing turns to absolute rubbish. Now, do I think Fred is anywhere better than anyone else? No, not necessarily. But I think that Fred has had a good enough season to warrant a +1. I think 82 is fair for Fred. I don't see why it isn't, to be honest. I think that Fred has been a solid midfielder. I just think he's not been a title-winning midfielder, nor has he been good enough to save in certain games. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's made mistakes, but other players have as well. I think it's one of those where, especially in Copa America, Fred shows that when he's played with a really good CDM, he's actually a really decent player, and he showed that for Brazil. He's shown that at times for United as well. It's one of those. And then McTominay's had a good season in United. He's had a very good season. I'll give him a small upgrade as well. He's had a good season in the Man United shirt. He's had a good season overall, and I think he definitely deserves an upgrade. I don't think anyone can disagree with McTominay getting an upgrade. I think people generally just like McTominay, myself included, and I think he's been a good player for us. Midfielders now, I've gone with a very biased 88 for Pogba. I very much like Paul Pogba. 87's probably really fair for Pogba. The reason why I went 88 is because if he goes and wins a Premier League Player of the Month for August, it's very possible that Pogba gets a cheeky extra upgrade. Usually with FIFA ratings, they're not confirmed and they're not final in the game until about a week before they're announced. That's why they're announced so close to the new game. It's because EA are taking a bunch of different factors into account. And I think if Pogba was to win Premier League Player of the Month after a fantastic start against Leeds, a fantastic start in general, it was, 5 assists in 3 games in August. I think, you know, he's definitely a shoo-in to get a very nice card, and I think that an 88 is definitely possible, given the fact he's already had an 88 in previous years. And people are forgetting he didn't actually have a bad season for United, and had very good Euros for France as well. In a United shirt, he scored some vital goals for us, whether it be in the Europa League, you know, against AC Milan, for example, or whether it be against, you know, Burnley, Fulham, West Ham, to name a few teams that he scored very vital goals against. I think that Pogba is definitely due an upgrade. I think he had a good season in the Man United shirt. Whether a +2 or not, pretty biased for myself, I can't lie. But we'll see. Matic, I've given a downgrade. Big pace downgrade. Just downgrade in general. You know, he's aging. He's not being used in the squad very much at all. I think that, to be honest, 78 is pretty generous. It could be a 77 or a 76, to be honest. But, yeah, that's the sort of card I think for Matic. And then Bruno, I gave a 92. 89 is also pretty fair. The reason why I gave him a 90 is because Bruno had a phenomenal season for Manchester United last year. And that's including, I would say, about 5 weeks where he was just so exhausted that he just wasn't converting at all, realistically, in the United shirt in the last 5 weeks of the season. The guy played 72 games in 56 weeks. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. It's so many games. And yes, he had a poor Euros, but I think people are going to use that as an excuse to shit on Bruno. I think people generally just hate Man United and they hate Bruno. And I think people will use that as an excuse to give Bruno as much rubbish as they can. There's no denying he's probably the second best midfielder in the world. Definitely in the Premier League. It goes De Bruyne, then it goes Bruno. And I think that a 90 is fair if De Bruyne's 91. I think it's fair for Bruno to be 90. I think there's no doubt that Bruno is due a massive upgrade. Whether it's a +3 or a +2, we'll see. But yeah, I think my 90 rated card is pretty fair for Bruno. -2 for Donny van der Bench. I feel really bad for Donny. I want him to be used more, but you can't get an upgrade or keep your rating when you've not been used the entire season. I think a -2 is pretty fair. +1 for Rashford. Despite injuries, Rashford had a very good season in the Man United shirt. You know, he scored a lot of goals. He was very much involved in that Man United squad the entire year round. I think a +1 is very fair. And then Jadon Sancho, I also give a +1 to for a few different reasons. 20 goal contributions in the league last year is massive. You know, 20 goals and assists is really, really big for Jadon Sancho, as well as a large contribution in the Champions League as well. I'd also say a move from the Bundesliga to a team like Man United usually gets a player a +1 as well, just on that rating. So I'll give him a +1 from an 87 to an 88. He's typically looked at as one of the best young talents in world football, and I think a +1 is fair for this card, to be honest. And you've got to remember as well, given the fact that he'll likely get a once to watch, it's very, very likely he gets an upgrade based on that as well. Attackers now, we have got Cavani, Viva Ronaldo, and Mason, the Starboy Greenwood. So Cavani, give him -1 to. I actually wanted, and kind of still want, to give Cavani an 84 or an 85 rated card next year. The reason why I gave him a -1 though for an 83 is because he's aging. Now, it's quite a contradiction, realistically, because, you know, Ronaldo's older, and I'm not giving him a downgrade. With Cavani, though, I think the fact that he had an extended leave for over the summer. You know, he missed the first couple of games of the season. You know, he was pretty decent in Copa America, but it wasn't insane. But he was pretty decent. And also, I just think that Cavani is one of those players that EA would happily downgrade. So I can see him getting a -1. I don't want him to. I think that he had a more than a good enough season last season to warrant the same rating, or maybe even an upgrade. But, you know, a -1 is very possible. I'm hoping I'm wrong with that. Ronaldo kept as a 92. I can't see Ronaldo being a 91 or lower, personally. I think Golden Boot in the Serie A, the fact that it's still Cristiano Ronaldo as well, I think that he'll still be a 92 come next year in the Premier League, which I'm very excited for, by the way. I'm so excited about Ronaldo re-signing. And then Greenwood, I think 81's pretty fair. I actually went reverse bias with Greenwood, because my inner bias wanted to give him an 82 or an 83, but I gave him an 81, just trying to be fair, because whilst I think he's generational talent, and he's had a great start to the season, and he had a good season last year for Man United, I don't know if it's a higher than 81 rated season or not. We'll see. I don't know if EA are going to bring out winter upgrades or not this year. They didn't last year. I hope they do, because I can see Greenwood definitely getting one. But yeah, I think 81 is definitely pretty fair for Greenwood, if not maybe a little bit under what he should be. And the last page is going to be our final attackers and Lingard, because I forgot to put him in the midfielders. So we've got left to right Amad Diallo, Traore, Martial and Lingard. I include Traore in this because I needed one more player to make it 3, to make it even. And also, he's the most likely out of him, you know, Shiratire, Elanga, Hannibal, that I think will play the most games. He'll probably just play club games, though, realistically. I give him a 71 rated card. I think it's pretty fair. I don't actually know his best position. Is he a right winger, a left winger, centre forward? He's been played in all 3 positions. I don't know which is his best position, but I made him a right wing for whatever reason. Martial, I'll give a -2 to. It's really frustrating because towards the back end of last season, he actually started to show a lot of promise. You know, a couple of goals against Southampton, and we started to see Martial return a little bit. I thought he had a great game against Man City. I thought he had a couple good games before his injury last year. But it wasn't enough, right? It wasn't enough. I think that he'll definitely get a downgrade. I give him a +2. I think there's definite arguments for an 81. I think there's definite arguments for an 83. I think an 82 is pretty fair. I hope that Martial has a good season this season, but I just don't see him getting too much game time with the addition of Ronaldo, you know, with Cavani, with Rashford, with Greenwood. I don't see where Martial gets some game time this year, with Sancho as well, but we'll see. And then Jay Lings, I get a +3 too. He was a 77 rated card last year, I didn't realise. I think his half season with West Ham has definitely warranted an 80 rated card, maybe even higher. He had a great half season. We'll sort of see what's in store for Jesse Lingard. I wanted Jesse Lingard to move to West Ham this year, not because I don't like him. I actually really like him just as a person in general. I think he's a really positive person. But I don't see where he gets game time this year. Like, if Van der Beek got barely any game time last year, where does Lingard get game time? That's my question. So I hope he gets game time. It'll just be interesting to see where. I want to see what Ollie's plans are. But they are the Man United rating predictions. Thank you all for watching this video. Let me know your comments down below. I'll see you lads in the next one. Peace.